Hello and welcome to my channel. I guess you already heard about single-core, multi-core, single-threaded, multi-threaded, simultaneous multi-threading, hyper-threading, LITTLE.big, E and P cores. Today I would like to show what this is all about. To understand it better, I took 6 CPUs. You can see the release date, the number of cores, the clock speed, the cache size, the operating system, the Qt version and the used compiler. The FET benchmark that I am using is always compiled with 64 bits and they use all the same Qt version. That's important because it has a big impact on speed. You can also see that the clock speed didn't change much in the last 10 years and it probably won't grow in the future either. The impact of the used operating system is probably low. If you don't know the CPUs, I would like to briefly introduce it to you. CPUs can be roughly divided into 3 parts. The low range is cheap but slow. The mid-range have a good price-performance ratio. And the high range is expensive but fast. At the time of their release, the red CPUs belonged to the upper low range, while the blue CPUs were part of the mid-range. But now let's have a look at the benchmark results. The FET benchmark is a modified FET version. It always generates exactly the same timetable. Even if you generate a lot of timetables, you will always get exactly the same. So use this only to do benchmarks. The Athlon 2 solved the timetable in 5 minutes and 26 seconds on a single core. If I use 2 threads to generate, then both timetables will be generated at the same time on 2 cores. Of course, it needs nearly the same time. But don't forget, I need only 5.5 minutes, not 11 minutes. Because both timetables are generated at the same time. But the second timetable on the second core wasn't generated in 5 minutes and 27 seconds. It took a little bit more time. Why was it slower? Maybe the CPU cared about the operating system. So it checked the keyboard, painted on the screen, or checked for updates. Or maybe the CPU was too hot and reduced the clock speed. Maybe it was slower because the 2 cores share the same cache. So in total, each core have only the half cache size. We will investigate this some more with the next CPU. The Intel CPU has 4 cores. As you can see, it generates faster in single core than the Athlon. If the Intel CPU generates on 2 cores, then it took nearly the same time as with the single core. It is only a bit slower. Similar with 3 cores, only a bit slower. And with 4 cores also. Another reason might be that the 4 cores must communicate a little bit with each other and report the times to the interface. But overall, this is a good result, because the times are nearly the same. But now, let's have a look at CPUs with SMT or hyperthreading. Both is nearly the same. When a program runs, it executes commands. The program runs on a thread. The commands are, for example, load number A, load number B, and add the 2 numbers. This is pretty quick if the numbers are in the cache, but the numbers might be in the memory, so it will take some time until they arrive in the arithmetic logic unit. The CPU is forced to wait for the numbers. A hyperthreading core can work on a second program at that time. By this, 2 threads are running on a single core. It's faster than doing one thing at a time. In fact, there are although other tricks in hyperthreading. And similar tricks are also used in out-of-order execution CPUs. But in fact, it is much more complicated. Even a simple command like add is in fact more complicated. If you want to add something, you must fetch the instructions, decode the instructions, execute it, and write back the results. But I don't want to talk about pipelining now. Let's check out now a CPU with 2 hyperthreading cores. So 2 cores supports 4 threads. You might wonder about the single core results. Unfortunately, the benchmark doesn't deliver consistent results. You can also see that 2 cores are significantly slower. But how to compare the CPUs now? Is the Intel CPU with 2 cores and 4 threads faster, or the Athlon CPU? Instead of comparing the times, I calculated how many tables are generated per minute. If you generate a single timetable in 5 minutes and 26 seconds, then you will get 1 table per 5 minutes and 26 seconds. 1 divided by 5.5 minutes is equal to 0.18. And what about 2 cores? I got 2 timetables in around 5.5 minutes. 2 divided by 5.5 minutes is equal to 0.36. I got 2 timetables in the same time. So the value tables per minute is doubled from 0.18 to 0.36. I also calculated this for the 4-core CPU. Running the benchmark on a single core results in 0.26 timetables per minute. Running on 2 cores results in 0.5 tables per minute. Running on 4 cores results in nearly 1 timetable per minute. As you can see, 4 cores generated 4 timetables in 4 minutes. The values tables per minute are proportional to the number of cores. On the 4-core CPU, the CPU with the 2 hyperthreading cores is odd. The values are not proportional. It looks like hyperthreading didn't work well. Let's have a look at a newer hyperthreading CPU on another operating system. But same problems here. Comparing a single core with 2 cores doesn't double the number of timetables per minute, but at least the 2 hyperthreading threads results in a nearly 50% speed up. Let's have a look at a modern Ryzen CPU. It has 6 cores and the double number of threads. As you can see, the times nearly didn't change if you run on a single core, 2 cores or 6 cores. So here, the number of generated timetables per minute is nearly proportional to the number of cores. And with simultaneous multi-threading, we got at least a 27% speed up. So the Ryzen CPU has a good simultaneous multi-threading CPU. Modern CPUs have LITTLE.big or E and P cores. Little E cores are small and cheap. Cheap not only in the production, also in use. Because they are designed to save energy, they are not designed for speed. They should take care of the base load, so maybe care about keyboard, the clock or the internet connection. Big and P cores on the other hand are huge. The production is more expensive. They are designed to get the highest speed. Software like FET is executed on a performance core by default. If you want to learn more about P and E cores, visit the YouTube channel from HiGield. The Apple ARM M2 chip has 4 P and 4 E cores. The single core benchmark is faster than the Ryzen benchmark. What do you think, who will be faster if all cores are running? Don't forget, the ARM CPU has only 8 cores, while the Ryzen has more threads. Sadly, the ARM CPU lost. But have a closer look to the results. The 8 timetables were nearly always generated in about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That was unexpected to me. I expected to get 4 timetables in around 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the other 4 timetables in maybe 3 minutes. So it looked like the threads are moved from core to core. I already noticed that some time ago. You can see that in my YouTube video Speed Up FET by using multiple cores. How much time can we save if we generate timetables? I will put the link into the video description. But wait, I've made a mistake. I compiled the FET benchmark for x86 CPU and not for an ARM CPU. macOS can translate from x86 to ARM. That is done by Rosetta. Let's compile for the native ARM language. In the native language, the CPU is much faster. Although with 2 and 4 cores, the time is nearly always the same. So the timetables per minute value is nearly proportional to the number of cores. With all 8 cores, it is slower. But the 8 cores are faster than all threads of the Ryzen CPU. Compared with the result of the x86 code, there's again a speed up of around 20%. So always use the native language. Intel even uses performance cores with hyperthreading. Sadly, I haven't got such a CPU, so I can't test it. But please check the FET forum for newer results. Maybe you can already find them there. Conclusion of this video. Use as many threads as possible. And comparing mid-range CPUs with nearly 10 years age difference, you can see that the single-core speed is around 2 to 3 times higher, and the multi-cores are around 3.8 times faster. That's it for today. Have a nice day, and let us know your results in the FET forum.